Buildaid Media, powered by builders and supported by Mix 93.8 FM and SA Garden and Home, are proud to bring you this homeowner workshop series. Throughout this series, we will be showcasing a wide variety of industry specialists to ensure a positive building experience. In this episode, Istvan Nyul joined Graham Alexander to discuss underfloor heating, specifically Kyosol's innovative hydronic system. They also looked at what the system entails and what you need to plan for before you begin building.
Istvan Nyul, thanks so much for coming to chat to us, Istvan. Good morning. Yeah, Istvan's from a company called Kyosol. They also do home automation and a couple of other things, including rainwater harvesting. But Istvan's here to chat to us about underfloor heating, using water, or rather heated water. So I think let's start out, Istvan, by explain this installation to us in as briefly as you can.
What you can see here on that picture is a typical installation. This one was done in waterfall, and those orange lines is the pipe, which is laid in the bottom part of the screed. The screed goes on top. It's about 70, 80 millimeters. And underneath it, we put some polystyrene to keep the heat loss at a low. This pipe then is connected to a manifold. So the manifold is basically a distributor which distributes the water into the different zones of the building. One zone can, for instance, be one room, or if the room is bigger than 10 square meters, we'll need 2 zones into that particular room. At the manifold, there's another port for a big connection, and that connection is for the heat pump then, for instance, as a heat source. And the heat pump then produces the hot water, which is then circulated via pumps.
So it continuously circulates through the screed and the floor, heating it to whatever temperature you've set the heat pump at.
If the temperatures are not right in the room, then it will circulate. Otherwise, the pump switches off.
How many? You said it goes through a manifold, so I guess a little bit like an exhaust pipe on a car or a distributor. So you're bringing the water in and you're distributing it to different zones or different areas.
Yes, that's correct. The water comes in through a big pipe, and then we pierce into the different zones through the floor. And that is done through that distributor. On the distributor, there's a couple of valves, which then open if the temperature is not right. So those get controlled by the automation system, for instance, and allow the flow of the warm water into the zones.
One of the popular ways of heating that water up, Istvan, is through a heat pump. How does it compare to electricity?
The efficiency of a heat pump is described in the COP, which is the coefficient of performance. And if you compare it with electrical, if you use electrical, for 1 unit electricity you put in or you pay for, you get 1 unit of heat. With a heat pump, doing the underfloor heating, you put in 1 unit of electricity, but you get 4 to 5 units of heat. So the COP would be 4
to 5 times more efficient.
Electrical heater, COP is 1.
Yeah.
And that's where the saving comes in. You pay 20-25% electricity compared to electrical.
When it comes to other forms of heating, heating the water that goes into your system, you can use, I guess, gas?
You can use gas. Preferably, it must be piped. Then you can use gas as a heat source. You can use solar thermal panels installed on the roof. Disadvantage of solar thermal is you can only collect heat during the day, and during the day you don't need a lot of heat in the house. So you have to store it. And that storing you can only do through big buffer tanks, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 liters. And then at night you can withdraw the heat from those tanks. It is possible, and the best way to do it is with a heat pump, because then you can also cool in summer through that heat pump.
So you can reverse
it. Added benefit.
Obviously, putting any of these systems into a home, the home should be energy efficient in the first place. So if you're going to put underfloor heating in and your windows haven't been designed correctly, or from an energy efficiency point of view, and there's no insulation in your ceiling, it's probably a bit pointless.
Yes, you should, of course, start insulating the shell of the building. That means wall insulation is also possible. Insulate the ceiling. We will insulate the floor underneath the underfloor heating system to avoid that heat loss. And also double glazing, for instance. It's available here in South Africa. Use it. And that will reduce the heat loss of the house 50%. It means the system becomes smaller and less initial costs.
Double glazing is becoming a lot more cost efficient than it was three or 4 years ago, because a lot of stuff's being manufactured locally. When it comes to installing a system like this, Istvan, I guess that the site needs to be fairly well managed, because you don't want people tripping over all your pipes.
It must be clean like in a hospital, and no other tradesperson must be on site, because it's very sensitive to install this, because if you have a little stone under your shoe and you walk over the pipe, it might dent the pipe, it might damage the pipe, and I get the problems then. So
you also need a utility room while we've got that slide up.
Yes,
that is you need a space to manage the system.
That is a typical utility room. That's where all the equipment is installed. That big tank there is used for the hot water production. So you can use that heat pump, which does the underfloor heating and the cooling, to produce your hot water as well. Don't need additional geysers. And connected to it is a freshwater station, that little black block next to it on the right-hand side. And yeah, you see it's a lot of piping, and that equipment cannot be outside, so you need a room. And that needs to be planned in from the beginning.
You put the pipes into the floor. So generally, in a home, you'd have a concrete floor, or what's referred to as a surface bed, and then you'd have a screed on that, and then your tiles or carpet or whatever. How does that change with your installation?
The room will have to be built a little bit higher, by a brick, maybe 2 bricks, because we have to put that insulation underneath, which is on ground floors, it's typically 50 millimeters. On upper floors, you can go down to 25 millimeters or 30 millimeters. And that adds already 50 millimeters. And then the screed is another 70 or 80 millimeters. So you're looking about 100, 120 additional.
So it's critically important that it's planned correctly. Otherwise, you could bump your head on the top of the door frame if it's lifted so much, especially someone like myself.
There are ways to install it afterwards, as a retrofit, for instance, with a special panel then, which we lay out on top of the existing floor. That will only lift the floor by about 20 millimeters. And right on top, you can put new tiles.
And what kind of floor coverings can you use on a floor that's been heated?
The best floor covering are tiles, because they conduct heat very well, just like they conduct heat away when they are cold from your foot. And but basically any material, any floor covering, if it's approved for underfloor heating. So ideally tiles and other coverings, they will reduce the heat flow. So you will have less heating capacity per square meter.
You briefly touched on, when we were looking at the installation, that this water, that's hot water that's being produced, can also be used for other heating the water in the home, maybe a swimming pool. So if you looked at the system as a system, you could be doing a lot more than just heating the floor.
Yeah, we said underfloor heating, but it's actually more. I mentioned the cooling earlier. In summer, you just reverse the heat pump and pump cold water through the floor. The infrastructure is there. You can use it or you don't use it. It's not as efficient as air cons, because we can only cool from underneath, and there's no natural convection. Like with the heating, the heat will rise automatically. With the cooling, it's sort of stuck and builds up layers. So it cannot be compared with air cons, but it's an additional cooling which you can have for free. Or you heat your pool in summer. Instead of heating, in winter you heat the house, in summer you heat the pool. So the system just switches over. You can set your temperature on the pool, and yeah. That is another.
When it comes to automation, automating these things, like I wanted to heat my pool and then go heat my floor, or do it all at the same time, I assume you can set this up.
Yes, the trend nowadays is going towards a smart building where everything is interacting with each other, and you have your app, you can see what's happening inside the house. The same way the heating system will work, every of the heating systems will come with an automation system. You sit on the couch, you see all the temperatures, you can change the temperatures, you can switch from heating to cooling, or leave it up to the intelligence to do it for you. You don't have to interact much with the system. It will do it automatically. If it notices it's summer outside, it will switch to cooling, and vice versa.
Thank you for joining us. If you would like to watch any more of the workshops in the Homeowner series, follow the Buildaid YouTube channel or visit our website, buildaid.co.za, where you can find a full range of our product offering. To book your seat at our next workshop, visit caxtonevents.co.za. Don't forget to tune into Mix 93.8 FM Wednesday evenings from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. to listen to the Buildaid show.